Okay, tonight it is time to get the facts on the U.S. military operations in Iran and what President Trump says could be an operation that lasts weeks. Lou Jacobson with PolitiFact joining us tonight live. So, Lou, the Trump administration has attempted to reach a deal regarding Iran's nuclear capabilities. We've seen those negotiations go on for a while. They even bombed previously the nuclear sites last year. But in a recent video posted to Truth Social, the president said Iran, I want to pull this up for folks, said this, rejecting a deal, quote, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. So what was PolitiFact able to find out about the claims that Iranian missiles could actually now reach the U.S., or at least soon?
Yeah, so this clashes with the 2025 federal government report that says that reaching the U.S. homeland is something that would take years for them to achieve. The Defense Intelligence Agency, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency report, said that Iran could develop a long-range missile by 2035 if it chooses to pursue it. That conclusion is similar to those that the U.S. government has made since the mid-1990s. Now, these sorts of missiles could already reach parts of Eastern Europe today, given their current capabilities. They have been focused on building missiles with top distances of about 2,000 kilometers. By contrast, the distance from Tehran to Washington, D.C. is about 10,000 kilometers, which is 5 times longer than that.
And Lou, in the bombing campaign last year that was focused on the nuclear sites, the president said that the U.S. had obliterated the facilities and continues to make this claim even today as he's talking about these more recent strikes targeting more military facilities. What have we found out about those initial strikes from last year? Did they obliterate the facilities?
Yeah, so, no one really knows for sure, at least publicly, but Trump's continued use of that word contrasts with other parts of what his own government is saying. For instance, in November 2025, White House documents said the strikes, quote, significantly degraded the nuclear program, and that is a much more cautious phrasing than totally obliterated.
And right now we're seeing this effort take place in Washington this week, trying to force a vote on the War Powers Resolution. Actually, I had Congressman Ro Khanna here in New Hampshire this week talking about this very thing. He's one of the two people with Congressman Massey trying to push this forward in an attempt to limit the president's ability to wage war in Iran. What can you tell us about what this would do and its chances of actually happening?
Yeah, so both the House and the Senate could vote on this sometime later this week. Most Democrats would vote for it, and most Republicans would vote against it, although there are a small handful of members who could vote contrary to what their party stands for. So far, similar votes to curb the president's powers have failed during Trump's second term. Even if this passed, it would basically be a rhetorical victory, because even if both chambers did successfully pass it, it wouldn't be by a very large margin, and President Trump could still veto it. Neither chamber is really likely to have sufficient votes, which is 2/3, to overturn his veto. One other thing worth noting is the vote would put members of Congress on the record about this U.S. attack against Iran. And, as the war moves forward, it could potentially become a campaign issue for candidates on both sides.
All right, we will watch that play out, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again about all this soon. Lou Jacobson, thanks so much for joining us.
Great, thank you.